Memorygame Android app in App Inventor. In this video, I'll show you how to make a memory game in App Inventor. You can see the game here in the emulator. It consists of 16 slots with 8 pair of images, which is distributed in a random order. So you have to find the 2 equal images, and when you click 2 equal images in a sequence, they will you'll get a point and they will stay visible. In the final game, we will add music, or sound, so there will be a little sound when you have a match and a little also a little sound when you don't match, and then a final fanfare when you have all the matches. So when you have all the matches, there will be a fanfare and the play again button will show up. And then you can have a new game with a new random order of the images. So we can see here the images I've made. I've just drawn them in hand and scanned them and made them square in Photoshop. So I'll make a new project in App Inventor. And here we are in the designer in App Inventor, and I start by making the background color black. And I set this the title visible off and the show status bar off, and then I set the screen orientation to portrait, and I'll set the screen to be scrollable here when I'm designing the layout. So, but in the final game, I'll uncheck the scrollable. I also set the line horizontal to center, so everything will be aligned. So when I drop an image at the top here, it will be at the center. And this will be my title bar. So I upload a image file, and I made a quick title image on the website TextCraft, I think it's called, where you can choose a style and type in a title, and then you'll get a PNG file. So that's just a quick and easy way of making a title graphic. You could of course use more time designing your own title bar, but just for this simple exercise, I've been lazy and used the TextCraft tool. So we're dragging a horizontal arrangement, and this one I'll only use as a spacer, so there'll be a distance from the memory game title bar to the actual game with all the images. So this was wrong. As I pulled in a horizontal scroll arrangement, I need the table arrangement instead. And I set the columns to 4 and the number of rows to 4, so I'll have 16 slots in all. Then I drag 16 buttons into the table arrangement, And in the block editor, I will style the buttons to have a size, and I'll delete the text, and I'll set the image for the buttons. So that's just a quick way to do the styling instead of doing the styling 16 times here in the designer. That's one of the really missing parts of App Inventor. That's the possibility to copy and paste an element or an object that you styled. So it's kind of annoying to do the same task over and over again. So here I'll show you how you can do it in the code. So in a quick way, we can run through a loop and style all the buttons in one loop. So I drag in another horizontal arrangement as a spacing, and this one I'll use as a spacer for and label, which I'll use to show the number of matches in the game. So I set the text color to white and font size to 24, and I set the text to 0. I actually set the font size to 36. Then I drag in another horizontal arrangement, and that's spacing down to the bottom, and I'll set this to fill parent in the height. So when we set the screen to not scrollable, it will fill out and push the button to the bottom. I set the height of the button to 88 pixels. I start by doing it as a percent, but set it as a fixed height to just be able to style the size of the button. In the last design, I changed the height of the button to 44 pixels because as it is now, it's not fitting, all the elements are not fitting in the emulator. So that's just to be able to show it all the elements in the emulator. I changed it back to 44. On a device, I guess the 88 will be better. But you can play around with either the relative percentage or a fixed number according to the device you want to build your game for. So here you can see the layouts. So forth. We have the buttons. We can't see them all, but we'll change that in a while in the code editor, block editor. And I also need 2 clock timers that are set to not enabled and not always fire. And those I'll use when I click 2 buttons. I'll check check if there's a match, and I'll wait a little while before I shift the images back. And I also dragged in a sound components that I'll use to play the sounds when I either have a match or not have a match. Now I'll import all my images. So I have all my images, and I need my sounds as well. I was not able to remember what I should do, so now I remembered I need to import the sounds. So in the future we probably will be able to load multiple sound asset files, and that'll be a day that I'll look forward to. You can do it in a special way by using 7-zip, I guess, where you you export your project, and then you open the assets folder, and you can drag files in. So it is possible to do it in a hackable way. So now I'm into the block editor, and I'll start by, and this will be a long run, I can say. So you have to follow all the code drag and drop here to be able to make the game. So I'll do one step at a time and show you how I've stick it all together. So here I make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 global variables, and I'll just copy paste them by highlighting one, and on the keyboard I press Control C and Control V, and then I can copy paste multiple instances of the same variable, and then I rename them to the first one called weight, second one index 1, and index 2. Then click 1, click 2, match number, and click name 1, click name 2, image lists, game, image lists temporary, image lists, and finally button lists. So weight is a boolean that I'll use to be able to wait for an input, or wait before we turn the images. I think it's wait before I turn the images and check. So I'll need 2 indexes for storing which slot is clicked, and then I'll have 2 booleans to check if I have clicked 1 time or I've clicked 2 times. Then I'll store the click name in a string, click name 1 and click name 2. So when I've clicked, I know which name the image has. And then I make 4 lists that I can use to store the image names and also to store the final images in the game. And the last, the button list, I use to store my buttons in the interface. So here I make a screen 1 initialize, and in that one I call the procedure I make myself that I call new game. And I just changed the button in the bottom of the interface to button save play 17 play, so I can distinguish it from the other buttons. So when we click the play button, we also call the new game. So when the screen initializes, we call new game, and when you click the button 17 play, we also call new game. And now I have to define what the new game should do. So in this procedure, I'll reset the numbers to the default numbers and the booleans to the default state. I also set the number of matches to 0, or in this case I set it to empty. So the label will just show a number when we have our first match. And then I hide the play button, and I'll show it again when I have all the matches. Then I make a new procedure, call it reset. And I call it from the new game. And I make another procedure. I call this create default image list. And then a third procedure, and I'll show you in a while what should be in these procedures. So in this one I call create button list. Then I start a loop here for each item in list, global button list. And now I'll style all the buttons on at the interface. So I go down to any component, and I find any button. That'll take all the buttons in my button list, which I have to create. And I set the text in the first green block. I set the text of the button to nothing. And I set the image to the background of our card. So you can see what's it called here, card underscore bg.png. So you have to spell it correct. So this looks all right. And then I copy this. And set the width of all my buttons to 1/4 of the screen width. And I also set the height to the same number. I sometimes try to duplicate by pressing Control D, and that's just putting a bookmark on this page. So I keep forgetting, sorry. And then I set all the buttons to enabled, to true. And when we got a match, I set them to enabled false, so we can't click them when we have a match. So now I have to fill out all my procedures, and the first one is the reset. I drag them down so I can remember to fill them out. So here I set all the default values of my indexes and my booleans. So global index 1 and global index 2 is used to storing where I have my first click and my second click. And the global click 1 and global click 2 is booleans that I use to store if we have clicked one time and waiting for the second click, and when I have both click 1 and click 2, I can check if we have a match or not. So in this procedure, create default image lists, I'll set my image lists with all the names of the different images. So I'll make a list that is 16, that has 16 items. So I copy the item here, click the blue icon, and then drag the item into the list here. So I'll get 16 slots. And in these, I have to put 2 pair of each image. So we have a fixed number of elements that we can take and put into a random order, and then we know we have 2 of each in the new list we'll make. (11, 12, 13, 16). And then I set the image names, card 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Control C, Control V 16 times or 15 times. And this is where visual coding is a bit harder than actual coding, where you just copy paste and you don't have to drag code around like we're doing here. So I just pause the video and fill out all the slots here. And now I'll make a reference to all my buttons that I actually already used up when I styled them. So I'll find the list that and here I made a little mistake that I have to correct later, but you can correct it now. So I just duplicated the list from above, and I forgot to change the name. It should be, instead of global image lists, it should be global button lists. So set global button list to, and then make a list, and then all the buttons in the 16 slots. So now we made our global button list, which I made I forgot to change the name, so please remember to change the name. And now I'll just look over what I have until now. So we have all our variables, and yeah, and I'll continue here with a new procedure. Set up lists. So now I'll have to actually duplicate my image list I made above to two other lists that I'll use for temporary storage and my final game list of the that I'm going to find in the Memorygame. So this image list temp is the first one, and then I have the image list game that is going to be the one, as I just told, with the actual positions of the images. So what I'll do is I'll drag from the image list temp and push them to the image list game. So the image list temp will be less and less items, and as long as items, I push them to image list game, and when there's no more items, I have all my 16 images in a random order. And I just made the global image list game from in a new way. I used a block called list from CSV row to text, and I made a text string with just a space and then comma separated, all 16 spaces in a quotation mark. And now I'm going to create my game. So I'll make two local variables. The first one called index, and the second one called random index. So index I used to pull from I just wait and see what we'll do. I can't remember now. So I call setup lists to make my empty lists and my empty image lists. And I'll look into the image lists for all the image names, and I'll find a random number here between the length of from 1 to the length of my temporary image lists, the one I'll pull out the items from. And then I replace the list item in the image list game with the item at the random index I've just found from my temporary list. Actually, I take them one at a time. So I take the first item in the image list game and I put it into yes, I take the first index item at the first index in global image list game, and I replace it with the random index I found in the image list temp, and then I remove this item in image list temp. So the image list temp will be one item minor each time, and when I've run through all 16, I'll have an empty image list game, and I'll made a new image list temp, and I'll have made a new image list game. It's a bit hard to understand here, but it's the essential part to understand, because it's here I shuffle the images around. And the last thing I did in the loop was to increase the index with 1, so we run through our image lists from 1 to 16. Okay, and then I'll check if it's a first click I made on the buttons, or if it's the second click I've made. And this procedure I'll call from all the buttons to check when a button is clicked if it's the first time or the second time. So if not global click 1, meaning I'm not it's the first time I click, then set global click 1 to true, meaning now I've clicked. And then we have to store the index of the button we clicked. So I store the index, or actually the name of the button I clicked. Or not the name of the button, but the actual image which is on that button. So I'll put in a parameter here to the procedure, so I can pass the index of the button I've clicked, and then I'll use that index to get the actual name of the image for that button. And I store that in click name 1. And then I also store the index in index 1, meaning the first clicked button has this index. Has the clicked index. And then if it was not the first time I clicked, it must be the second time I click. So I set the second click to click to boolean to true, and I do the same as above. I store the click name 2, and I set the index 2 to the clicked index. And then I check if we have a match or not. And what we can do is we can check the names. So if they have the same image name, we have a match. And when we have a match, we can set our variable match number to and then I of course have to increase the match number with 1. Before I set the label. Oh, and then if we have a match, I have to check if we have all the match, so we know that the game is finished, and we have to show the play again button and play the fanfare. So I'll check if global match number is equal to 8, so we have all 8 pair of images matched. So first I set the sound source of our sound component to the fanfare. All match. And I call the sound 1 play, so we'll play the sound. And I'll show the play button. And if we didn't have a match, I have to play another sound. Or if we have a match and it's not all match, meaning that we still have match to do, I'll just play the okay match, meaning that the sound is just a success sound and not the fanfare. And we have to play or click more buttons to find the last matches. And then I'll wait a little second before I can click again, or before the images will swap back. So I use the clock, the timer to wait. So I enable the clock 1, and that will fire after 1 second, because I set it to 1 second by default in the designer. And when the clock fires after 1 second, I set the global weight to false, and then I can click an image again, a button again, and the button's images will swap back, the two we just clicked. So what I'm doing now is that we didn't have a match, so I set the sound source to no match. I call the sound to play. I set the global weight to true, and I set the clock timer to enable to true. So I'll just wait again before I'll return, or I swap the images back to the background images. So I have to define what happens in the clock block, and I first take the clock 1 here. So when clock 1 fires, what should I do? I'll disable the clock 1 so it doesn't fire more than once. Then I call reset to start a new game. Or to set the not to start a new game, that was wrong. I have to reset the two images I just clicked, so I set the index 1 and index 2 in the reset back to 0, and the clicked 1 and clicked 2 booleans back to false. So in clock timer 2, I do the same, but instead of reset, I call new game, I guess. No, I call reset current 2 images. So that was when we didn't have a match, so we have to swap the images back. In above the reset, just set the Boolean variables of the click 1 and click 2 to back to false, and that will let the images be visible. So when we have a match, they will stay visible. So here I set the image button of the clicked 1 button. In the button list. I'll set that to back to the background. The index one, of course, not click one, that's a boolean. So the index one is the one we clicked first. So I set the image name to card background. And I'll do that for the second button as well. First I set the enabled of this button to true, so I can click it again. So now I take the second button I clicked and reset that back to background image. And finally, I also call reset to reset the click 1 and click 2 booleans to false. So we are ready to click a new round. And now I need all my button events. So I'll make the first one and then I duplicate that 16 times. So if not global weights, meaning that I haven't clicked it once, just to check it so that I can't click the same button twice. So I'll change the image of the button to the actual image that is on this button. And I'll take that from the global image list game, and I take the first index because it's the first button I clicked. And I set the button enabled to false, so I'm just be sure I can't click the button again. So in this one I'll call check click, which I made before, and I'll pass the index 1. And now I duplicate this button event handler 16 times. I do it in 4x4 columns or rows, so it's more manageable. So I guess I'll just pause the video in a while, and then I'll change all the parameters in the block to the respective numbers of button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, and so forth. And I have to change the index numbers as well to the matching button number. The editor has a kind of fun behavior here where you can see the contained blocks are almost falling out. So at least it's not breaking the logic. So I changed all the button names to the respective button number and the indexes to the same number. So I just paused the video and filled out the numbers, and here I'm doing the last one. So now we are almost finished. I just have to do some bug fixing, and there's 2 or 3 things you have to be aware of that I'll show you in a while. So you can see I have zoomed out a little so I can better look through all my blocks here. So the first thing you have to change is to put in a call, a procedure call here. So we have to call the create game list in this block. And then you have to change the button, the set image list here to set button list. And finally, if you have any extra spaces in this image list game, you can take them out so you don't get an error on the creation of this image list game. So if there's any spaces outside the quotation marks, please delete them. So now we are ready to check. I just changed the height of the button to 44, and I changed the spacer to fill parent. So the space of the game or elements will be equally distributed around the label. So now I'll check the game in your emulator. And you can hear the sounds of the false match and the OK match. And I play through the image as good as my mind allows me. I'm not that good a memory guy, so please forgive me, I press something. So that was one play, and then we can play again, and we'll have a new order of of the images. So I'll hope you have fun and make a cool game. Thank you.